Good evening, bona tarda a tothom i benvinguts. My name is Ignasi Subirà, and I am the Deputy Representative of the Government of Catalonia to the European Union. Thank you very much for following today's event entitled Roma in Europe, Present and Future, and organized in the framework of the Setmana Cultural de Sant Jordi. This is a week where we celebrate not only universal literature, but also our own culture and traditions and our diversity, as today's event proves. And this is a week that we jointly organize with the Casal Català de Brussel and the governments of Valencia, the Balearic Islands, and Catalonia. The events organized along this week will continue up until this Sunday, and we encourage you to check our program that we will share in the YouTube chat, so that you can discover those activities or those webinars that you can find interesting. We think that they are directed and they are appropriate for a broad kind of audience, and join these sessions and be part of this cultural week. At the Delegation of Catalonia to the European Union, we're very pleased today to welcome our three guest speakers. They are Tania Garcia, Fernando Macias, and Andrea Fernandez, and we will introduce them to you in a moment. The Roma people, which is the subject of today's presentation, have been in Catalonia for over 600 years. And the population of around 10 million in Europe, they are the largest ethnic minority in Europe, and have made a large number of social and cultural contributions, some of which we will present in today's presentation. Today's presentation is also intended at offering you some of the examples of improving material life conditions of some of the Roma people, with specific examples and overcoming all types of barriers, as you will see, and also at presenting the public policies that have been developed and implemented by the government of Catalonia, and in particular the Directorate General for Civic and Community Affairs. We think these are very good practices, acknowledged many times in European institutions, and they can be translated in other realities and territories, and therefore are of a great interest for European audience. The conference will be recorded and stored in the YouTube channel of the Department for Foreign Action, Institutional Affairs and Transparency of the Government of Catalonia, so that it can be watched at a later stage if someone misses today's live presentation. And I would also like to encourage you to ask any questions that you may have on the YouTube chat at a later stage of the session after the three presentations from our speakers. We will take these questions and we will try to answer them along with Tanya, with Fernando, and with Andrea. And without any further delay, let me welcome our first speaker for today. She is Tania Garcia, the coordinator of the Integrated Plan team at the Government of Catalonia. Tania has a PhD in social and cultural anthropology focused on the European research on Roma, and also with an interest in the political impact in the policies addressed to Roma in Catalonia. And as a result of all this background, she has taken part in European projects on the topic, and she has also been a professor at the University of Barcelona. So Tania, the floor is yours.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you, Ignasi, for your introduction. Well, I'm going to share with you a brief presentation of the situation of Roma, the European framework, and our work from the Catalan government with this community. After me, my colleague Fernando will present the main actions, successful results, and social impact that we are achieving within the public policies that we implement. And finally, my colleague Andrea, hello Andrea, will share with us her educational process and the social transformation that she's living in her own and in her family and community. We are going to share the presentation. Give me, yeah. You can see the slide. Is everything okay? Okay.
Yes, everything is perfect.
As I have mentioned before, we think that first of all, it's important to know some data about the situation of Roma in Europe in order to understand the reality in our countries and all the information that we are going to explain in this session. Because of time, we have to remark only some key data. This is like a picture. The reality is more complex, but you can access to this information and more data in this report that the European Fundamental Rights Agency published in 2019. The key data are the following. First, Roma is the largest ethnic minority in Europe. We are talking about 12 million of Roma around the continent, and about 80% of them live in poverty. We are talking about more than 9 million people living in poverty at this moment in Europe. Besides, the major part of Roma faces discrimination and prejudices. Anti-Gypsyism is the specific racism against Roma recognized by the European Commission. Fourth, the Roma life expectancy is 10 years less than the rest of the society. Only about 25% of Roma adults in Europe are in work, only 16% of women reporting they had a job. And the last one, there is also a huge educational gap because fewer than 25% of Roma people finish compulsory education. About 20% of Roma adults in Europe say that they cannot read or write. And in the Spanish context, only 1%, around 1% arrives to the university, while 35% of the rest of the population have a university degree. So the European institutions are very concerned about this situation because all these inequalities. The situation of Roma is focused in the European agenda as a priority, and they are developing an European policy framework in order to overcome these social, economic, and cultural inequalities, as well as the discrimination that we call anti-Gypsyism. Now we are in a transition time because the European Roma strategy up to 2020 is finished, and now we are working and discussing about the new EU Roma strategic framework that is focused in three-pillar approach. That is equality, inclusion, and participation. Now, in the Catalan context, we are in line with the European recommendations and priorities. Since 2001, Catalan government has a political compromise with the Roma situation and the recognition of the Roma culture and history as a part of the culture of Catalonia. We have to take into account that Roma is sedentary in our country with more than 600 years living in Catalonia. The Catalan government defined the first integrated plan for the Roma in 2005. The integrated plan is a set of public policies addressed to Roma. At the present, we are finishing the fourth integrated plan, and now we are defining the next plan. Which are the main general objectives or goals that we have in this integrated plan? No? As you can see in the slide, we have 4 main objectives that are the following. First of all, map out specific policies. It's important for us to remark specific policies for the Roma in Catalonia based on recommendation and evidences that has been scientifically proven to be successful in the promotion and inclusion of ethnic minorities in general and or the Roma in particular. It's very important these topics, evidence, scientifically proven, because to explain our success that my colleague explained you later. build strategies to put in place successful actions in all the plans areas: education, employment, housing, health, culture, women, and so on. And sure, Roma at risk in Catalonia are at the same socio-economical level as the society of which they are members. And the fourth is promote Roma culture as a part of a Catalan culture by disseminating its values and its contribution to the culture of Catalonia. The key elements that explain the success and social impact of this plan are the following. No? Because of time, I only explain one of them, that is the real implication of Roma in all the process of the public policy or project that we implement. Real implication of Roma is one of the pillar approach, as I mentioned before, of the new EU Roma strategic framework. As you can see in the slide, is the third pillar approach, participation. Okay, this is the background. This is a context. Now I'm going to share with you some examples of how can I make real this implication of Roma in all the process, because in every context you can listen, no, that participation is very important, but how can I make real this implication of Roma in all the process? The first example is the creation of intercultural teams. We are in love with this fact. With this example, is very important to achieve successful actions and the creation of intercultural teams. We are working in an intercultural team here in the department, in the government, composed by 5 Roma and 3 non-Roma in an egalitarian position. As you can see in the slides, this is our office and this is our meetings in pandemic. Another example of real implication are the Roma working groups. These groups have different duties, as well as to design the plan, to propose new actions, follow up the implementation of the actions, and so on. The third way to real implication of Roma is the Roma Advisory Council, where around 21 representatives of Roma NGOs dialogue with the government in an egalitarian dialogue about the actions and the implementation of the budget, euro by euro. For example, it's an important space to assure the accountability of the government with the beneficiaries in this context, the Roma community. The last example of real participation is the creation of Roma teams in the communities. Integrated plan for the Roma works for Roma and with Roma. For Roma, with Roma, many of the people that you can see in the slide have access to labor market for the first time in their life, thanks to their participation in the integrated plan, and their contribution is key for us and key for the successful of our actions. To conclude my presentation, I would like to share with you a lesson learned during the more than 20 years that I have been working with Roma from different fields, as well as research, teaching in compulsory education, participation in NGOs as a volunteer, and now from the public administration. Roma people contribute to European citizenship in different ways, but in a cultural approach, I would like to highlight these values. The first one is solidarity. This is an historical value of Roma, but we have observed it with more intensely during the COVID-19. It was very important, the solidarity during the pandemic. And the second value is the respect for elder people. Roma has a deep feeling of respect for the elder people. And again, during the pandemic, all of us have comproved how the non-Roma institutions turned their backs on our elder people, and it was very, very hard. And this value of respect for elder people is a important contribution of this community. The third is pride and transnationality. Roma, as a whole, is proud to be Roma. They share a common identity beyond the countries and frontiers. And Roma is a people without territory, and the way that they live their identity is a contribution to the construction of the European identity. And with this idea, I would like to conclude my presentation with this positive point of view. And okay, thank you very much. We can talk more after the presentations.
Thank you very much, Tanya, for your great presentation. Let me now introduce to you Fernando Macias. He is also a member of the Integrated Plan team at the Government of Catalonia. He holds a PhD in education focused on the Roma contributions to overcome poverty and anti-Gypsyism thanks to the successful educational actions. Fernando Macias, he is also currently a part-time professor at the University of Barcelona, and he's also a member of the Roma Studies group in this same university. And just like Tanya, he has also taken part in European research projects on the matter. So yeah, let me welcome Fernando for his presentation. I think that you need to turn on your camera, Fernando. Okay, now I can see you. Perfect.
And can you hear me too?
Yes, welcome.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation, Ignacy, and thank you very much, Tanya, for her clear introduction about when we are talking about Roma, we are talking about a really specific population, a really specific people. Unfortunately, there are a lot of data that demonstrate that we, the Roma, we are in a very bad position in comparison with the rest of the population. But we are also contributing in many ways to the development of the European citizenship with the values that Tanya mentioned before. And in my presentation, I would like to explain more about the impact of the actions that we are carrying out in the integrated plan for the Roma here in the Catalan government. As Tanya mentioned before, there are 5 key principles and characteristics that explain this social impact. She focused on the real implication of the Roma, and I would like to focus the attention in the idea that is really important for us to base our actions, our projects in evidences from the scientific research with our achieving the greatest social impact. In which evidence we are basing our action. So for instance, we are using in the field of education, we are using the findings and the results of the included project that is the most important project focused on education funded by the European Commission in the 6th framework program. Thanks to this project, we identify the concept of successful educational actions. These actions are a set of actions that are obtaining the best results, not only in the academic performance, but also in coexistence. And thanks to these actions in the schools with a high concentration of Roma students, or located in really deprived areas of Catalonia, also in other parts of Spain, but especially here in Catalonia. And after the implementation of these actions, as I said, significant progresses are observed. For instance, in the reduction of absenteeism, also in the improvement of educational performance and coexistence, and the improvement of family participation, the increment of the number of students who complete secondary education successfully, and the improvement of academic skills and employability of families, among other achievements. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of successful educational actions. We only have 6 actions identified because these actions are transferable, so we can implement these actions even in a rural area or urban area, or in a deprived area, or in a really common or middle class neighborhood. But the common fact is that we are always obtaining the best results in academic performance, but also in coexistence. Especially in the plan, in the integrated plan here in Catalonia, we are focusing our attention. We are putting all the efforts in the educational participation of the community, because this kind of action is having a huge impact, not only in the people who is participating in the programs, also in all the people who is involving in the community. And when we are talking about family education, we are talking about the improvement of educational level of families and other community members, because these can also have a positive impact in their own social inclusion. We are talking about the families, for instance, by better improving their employability or the labor options, but also because this impact is being observed in the performance or in the improvement of the academic skills of their children and from other community members. Another action or another evidence base that we are using here in the plan is coming directly from the Harvard University, is the concept of affirmative action. We understand as affirmative action, maybe you are familiar with the positive discrimination, but this is not a good term, because the correct way to say this action is affirmative action is as University. There are proactive measures that are providing access to higher education for traditionally excluded groups, such as the Roma. And there are 2 ways to obtain or to develop these proactive measures. For one hand, we can directly book places or have a book reservation in the university degrees. This is an option. This is a way to do this affirmative action. And another way to do is providing financial, institutional, and academic support for these students that we understand that need more help because they are coming from a really deprived areas, or because they are living in a non-equalitarian situation. So thanks to base our action in this evidence coming directly from the research with greatest social impact, we are achieving a real beautiful and impressive results. First of all, we would like to share with you a cluster or a set of actions directly focused or related with the culture, with the Roma culture, especially because we are now celebrating Sant Jordi, who is really important here in Spain. Ignacy mentioned before that is really important because it's really important because we are celebrating the contribution of the Roma also to the Catalan culture. So we develop in the plan different actions to introduce Roma culture in the schools, in the educational centers, but also publishing different books and other kind of stuff in order to share the Roma culture with the rest of the population. Also, we are supporting schools as learning communities because they are implementing successful educational actions, and because they are having a huge impact, especially in reducing their absenteeism, but also increasing their school performance. And we are directly developing a specific family educational program called University Entrance Group, GAU, because the Catalan acronym. From 2012, more than 100 persons, Roma people are participating in this family program. This year, 36 new candidates are trying to pass the exam. They participate in the last weekend, the common part, and this weekend they are going to try to pass the specific part. So hopefully in this 1 month we will know how many of them are new Roma University students. Thanks to this program, we are talking about 40 new Roma University students currently enrolled in the Catalan University, but also in other universities around Spain. And thanks also to another actions coming from the integrated plan, almost 120 Roma are participating successfully in higher education. Thanks to these actions, thanks to the projects that the integrated plan is implementing here in Catalonia, even more, we have reference that they are also transforming the situation of their families and their communities in the neighborhood. So we are talking about more and more Roma who arrive to the university and to transform the image of prejudice that many Catalan citizens have about us. And finally, we would like to share with you a challenge that we achieved 3 years ago. The Secretary of Universities approved to book a place in every degree in the university, in all the Catalan universities, for 1 Roma students. Thanks to this measure, we are talking about 27 new Roma students in the university that they are studying psychology, nursing, social work, or medicine. And this is the case of Andrea, who is going to talk with you right now. She has been one of the beneficiaries of different measures of the plan, and we are very glad to say today that she is part of our team. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Fernando, for the presentation, and I'm sure that we'll come back to some of these points that you raised later in the discussion. Yeah, as Fernando was saying, I would like to welcome Andrea now. She is also a young Roma woman who is currently enrolled at the degree in psychology, as Fernando said, in the University of Barcelona. She has been recently selected as a community worker in her neighborhood, and which is one of the most excluded areas of Catalonia. And she is a participant of several actions in the framework of the integrated plan that has just been presented. And she has also become one of the positive role models for the Roma community and for Roma girls in particular. So let me welcome Andrea to this session as well. The floor is yours, Andrea.
Hello. Yes?
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Andrea Fernandez. I am 20 years old. I am Roma, and I am in the 2nd year of psychology degree. I come from a very humble Roma family, which had worked in the flea market until they got caught up in the recession and had to turn to other jobs, but always jobs to make ends meet. Plus, I also grew up in a social inclusion neighborhood called La Masia. Now I tell you a little bit about my academic background. I went to primary school like any other boy or girl, and my parents were involved in everything, and they were always with me. The step up to secondary school was a little more challenging, as no one around me had reached that level, and that's when you don't know whether to push on or stay put. I always got very good marks, but I never thought about going to university. It wasn't something for me, or so I thought. My parents always wanted me to complete my lower secondary education, and when I was finishing it, they encouraged me to go on to do upper secondary, but they didn't think about the option of going to university because nobody else they knew had got the affair. Then one day I looked at my classmates and I said, if they can do it, why can't I? I am the same as them. So I decided to give it a good go and press ahead. I did the scientific upper secondary option and the university entrance exam and got a very good mark, but unlike all my classmates, because when they got home, they had their mom, someone from their family, or a person they paid to help them. By contrast, I was on my own, but I still managed to pass the course and my university entrance exam and get a very good mark. Albeit not enough to get into maths, the degree I wanted to study. And at that time, when I didn't know what to do, the integrated plan came into my life thanks to an acquaintance. They give me the help I needed to get affirmative action, support, and be able to read for the degree and opportunity, which convinced me not to give up and made me see that all the times I wanted to throw it in the towel had been worth it. Then I decided to switch to psychology, which is what I am doing now, and it was the right choice as I am a very approachable person and eager to help and others. During all this time, I have had to work in various places, such as supermarkets and shops, to pay for my transportation and studies. However, due to my education and once again the outside job done by the integrated plan, today I'm working in my neighborhood as a mediator, battling and trying to provide people with a future. In fact, I never thought that all my effort and sacrifice would turn into something so good for me and for everyone around me. Today, I have my brother doing the first year of upper secondary, my mother doing the exam for the over 25, a group of Roma girls in upper secondary who I help, and I am their role model and my whole neighborhood where I grew up and lived. I am a role model for breaking down barriers and shattering stereotypes. And finally, I would like to add that it is time for education to stop giving up on any child. We all have the right to have them believe in us. So let's commit to equality education. It's time to be where we want to be heard and to be seen. There are many others like me and more welcome along. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. I would also now like to welcome back Fernando, Tanya, and Andrea to answer some of the questions that we had. If we can turn on the cameras. So from the different presentations, we also gathered different points that I think were very interesting. From the initial presentation from Tanya, all the reality about the Roma people today, and then the public policies that Tanya and Fernando explained, along with the testimony from Andrea, were all very interesting. If you would like, I could start with a question about something that Tanya touched upon in the beginning. Maybe you can explain a bit more about the importance of the intercultural team that you told us about. And yeah, if you can elaborate a bit more on that, maybe Tanya or Fernando, as you prefer.
Okay, intercultural teams. We think that this is a key element because when we are working in an intercultural team, we can work with an intercultural approach, and at the same time, Roma from the grassroots near here, near our department, can identify the program as a part of them. They identify with us and with our actions, and the participation is increasing all the time. The illusion and the hope is increasing all the time, and the only way that we know is the intercultural teams. If we think in gender projects or gender programs, it's impossible to think that we can do a gender program without women. It's impossible to think, but with ethnic minorities usually can see this reality. Is from the government of Catalonia, this is not possible because all our actions are implemented by intercultural teams. It's a key element for us, and we recommend all of you that you can do the same because it's a key element for us.
Thank you, Tanya. I don't know if someone else wants to add something. Otherwise, I will ask him another question that we had. It was about the factors. What do you think are the key factors that explain the results that you showed us before in the University Access Group, and also the chart in the evolution of student access to university? I don't know. Fernando, will you answer that? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I can add something because it's my part. Okay, I think it's very important to understand that Catalonia is a really privileged context in comparison with other parts of Spain, but other parts of the world, because there are a lot of facts that are playing a role, an important role at the same time. We are the institutional support, as you are observing today in this presentation with the integrated plan, but we also have a really important Roma social movement who is pushing to the public administration and is also claiming the rights and the needs that Roma community we need in this moment, but also in the past, but especially in this moment. And at the same time, we have a permanent dialogue with the university and people who is working on the field. So we have these three important pillars working together. And I think that for understand the social impact, first of all, we should have in mind this particular situation that we have here in Catalonia. For instance, is not a casualty that Tanya was the coordinator of the plan, and she is researcher at the same time. She has a long experience working with Roma for more than 20 years from NGOs, but also doing the graded social impact research in the university, and at the same time right now is working in the Catalan government. So these profiles working in the administration, the public administration, are especially are especially good when we are working with vulnerable populations. This is for one hand. In the other hand, we have that at the beginning, the university entrance group, it is not or did not the best practice in terms of many Roma said that they don't feel comfortable or they don't feel good enough to go to the university because maybe this is not for them. But the step by step, and after the first success, and then more Roma feel that, as Andrea explained it perfectly, if they can do it, why I cannot do it? So this is also one key element that explains our success, because the new role models are acting as a role model for other people who are playing a key role in this expansion on this widespread of the impact of this university entrance. According also with other actions, but we explained it before, so I think that for this question, this answer is good enough.
Yes, thank you. I would like to follow up on both things. Maybe Andrea, you can tell us a bit more. Well, you explained your experience as a student and also a bit about your future plans. But then we also got another question on the problems that in general Roma people face in Catalonia. So maybe we can start with Andrea and she tells a bit more, and then Andrea or Fernando or Tanya, you can give us a bit more context of the problems in Catalonia in general and if these problems have improved in the recent years. Andrea, can you unmute yourself because we cannot hear you?
We can translate, Andrea. Yeah.
¿Se me escucha? Es que me cuesta un poco así con el inglés y me pongo nerviosa.
No hay problema, traducimos.
Vale, si no he entendido mal, la pregunta es como los problemas que encontramos, ¿no?
Sí, de tu futuro y de los problemas que encontramos, sí, sí.
Vale, bueno, en mi futuro a mí me gustaría dedicarme dentro de la psicología, me gustaría dedicarme en el tema social, en los niños exactamente, pero en los niños en exclusión social, en cuanto a los problemas que esto le produce a la educación y poder centrarme un poco en estos temas y cómo resolverlo y ayudarles. Y bueno, los problemas que nos encontramos son como poco, nos cuesta llegar a los recursos necesarios para llegar a una buena educación y a un futuro mejor aún. Yo creo que en el transcurso de mi educación, hasta que he llegado a unos recursos como buenos o como el resto, me ha costado mucho llegar hasta ellos o obtenerlos a mí.
Yeah, basically, well, for those that didn't understand Spanish, she told us about that she wants to work in the field of social affairs and especially with children. And she told us a bit more about the problems that especially have to do with the access to education, right? That was precisely what Fernando was explaining before. And this difficulty to, in terms of resources, to access to this education. And I guess it also has to do with what Fernando explained about when Andrea or other students are at university, how is the impact or how they feel themselves when they reach university. I don't know, Fernando, if you want to add something else to this question.
Yes, about not in the field of education, but maybe in other fields that are really important for the inclusion of Roma, we are observing not only here in Catalonia or in Spain, also in the rest of Europe, that the main problems are coming in the field of employment and also in the field of housing and health. In the employment field is because usually Roma, we don't have enough qualification to obtain a stable job. So it means that we are excluded from the stable labor market. But at the same time, because we are facing a lot of prejudices and stereotypes when we are looking for a job, or even when we are carrying out our job. So this is the reason because, okay, in the field of housing, we are observing that this is happening the same. Many people say that Roma, we prefer living all together, living in La Masia, the neighborhood of Andrea, or everybody wants to live in La Mina, but this is not true, because many times when we are trying to looking for a flat or a house in a different area, when they look or they see that you are Roma, they don't want to rent the flat for you, or they don't want to sell the flat for you. So this is the reason, the major part of the reason, because many Roma are living always in the same places. So because these prejudices and stereotypes that Tanya call it anti-Gypsyism, this is the reason, because here in Catalonia, again, we are the first public administration who is trying to develop a specific law against anti-Gypsyism in order to identify how anti-Gypsyism works and how we can fight against this specific discrimination against Roma, in order to improve, as we observed in the Tanya's presentation, the data were coming from the anti-Gypsyism report coming from the EU FRA. So the conclusion of this report is that anti-Gypsyism explains the social exclusion of Roma. So if we have a specific law against anti-Gypsyism, we can really talk about real social inclusion of the Roma around Europe and also here in Catalonia.
No, this is very interesting because we got another question asking, what do you think are the differences in Catalonia with respect to other communities around Europe and what they are facing in other areas of Europe?
Okay, so I think that some of the difference I explained before some of the difference, but maybe one thing that we were talking just yesterday about is that when you talk about Roma here in Spain, we are Spanish, we are Catalan, we are Basque, we are from Andalusia, so we don't have a problem with the language. All Roma understand Spanish and Catalan perfectly. Maybe Catalan is not good enough, but always Spanish. And we have the regular documentation. I mean, we are citizens, Spanish citizens in a regular position. In other countries, for instance, in the Central Europe, in Germany, especially in the UK, we have a lot of colleagues working in the UK. The problem is that they don't understand the tongue language that the country have. So you have Roma in Romania that they speak Romano, but they don't speak Romanian. So they are not able to speak in Romania with the public administration. This is an important barrier. And also many times they are undocumented. So they are excluded because they are Roma, but also because they are migrants or undocumented. So we call this in social sciences intersectionality, because the discrimination is working in different ways, not only because we are Roma, because are always facing another spaces or ways of discrimination.
Yeah, thank you very much, Fernando. There's another question that I've been thinking about, is a bit more personal. How are you gonna celebrate Sant Jordi tomorrow? in well, wherever you live or you're from, if you have any specific plans or just the usual celebration with books and roses?
Yep. Yeah. Well, in my case, I'm very traditional in this sense, and I love roses and books. So it's my favorite day in the year, maybe. So I think that I enjoy this day, and I invite all the people that are hearing us that you can buy a book or roses for all your family and friends, because it's a very beautiful day here in Catalonia, and we would like to share with you this tradition of Roma and non-Roma tradition, and that's it. It's very simple but beautiful at the same time.
Thank you, Tanya. Well, I don't know if Fernando or Andrea want to add something. Otherwise, from my side, I think this would be all. Thank you very much to the three of you for your availability and making it well, very easy and very interesting to this presentation and the discussion now. I think it has been a very good example for all kinds of audiences in what can be done with to work with and for the Roma people, as you said before, and these very good practices, I hope that they're taken into account in other contexts, as I said earlier as well. From my side, yes, I would like again to say that it will be very interesting to welcome you in Brussels in person at some later stage when the conditions allow, because of course it's very interesting to have this presentation online, but it would also be great to have you here at the delegation. And yeah, to thank you again, everyone attending this event from our behalf and also from the other organizers of this week of the Setmana Cultural de Sant Jordi with the Casal and the government of Valencia and the Balearic Islands. And we hope to see you again in the other activities that we are doing during this week until Sunday, and otherwise in the near future, and if possible in person. So thank you very much and see you soon. Have a good evening.